If you want to avoid the 5 mistakes I made in this Red Sea Max Nano Peninsula tank, then you're in the right place. I've had a number of tanks over the years, and this is the smallest at 100 litres. So these are the 5 things that I would definitely do differently. Number 1, I'll be using live sand instead of dry sand. Now in my previous 2 tanks I used live sand, so that was in the DD 900 and also the Red Sea Refill 170 litres. But I thought I'd go for something different, so I went for the Reef Flowers sand. Now of course that sand is dead, the rock was dead. I put some rock rubble in the back to actually give it some life, but the surface area was dead. Whereas with live sand you have some bacteria that's already in that sand, so that helps build up the tank and keep unwanted algae away. And that has been a big difference from this tank compared to the previous tank, and definitely if I did this again I'd use live sand. Secondly, when the tank is cycled, putting enough bacteria in the tank to help it mature and help to keep algae and other bad bacteria at bay, I think is really important. So yes, I did add some bacteria and I did add some copepods to it, but I didn't do that enough and didn't do that long enough, especially where the dry sand was quite a big surface area, so that would attract unwanted algae and other bacteria. So by using things like Dr. Tim's One and Only and also Dr. Tim's Eco Balance, I would be using that, and I've started using that, and I think that's helped. Putting copepods and phyto in on a regular basis, and also maybe culturing your own baby brine shrimp, which again I've done in the past but I didn't do for this tank. And what I'm now doing is after each water change, so once a week, I am actually dosing Dr. Tim's Eco Balance and putting some copepods in there to keep it going. The third one, if you see an issue, sort it out, don't let it go on. So the mistake I made is I had an outbreak of bubble algae and had a big outbreak of green hair algae, and I just put that down to the ugly stage, but it festered, it went on for a few months, and what I ended up having to do, I used Reef RX to get rid of the algae, which it got rid of probably about 70% of the algae, but I'll come back to the Reef RX because there is a downside to that, or I found there was. And so, but therefore having the right cleanup crew definitely helped. So emerald crabs definitely helps in terms of the bubble algae. What I'd recommend is when you're doing your water changes, manually take out the bubble algae. But also, for the first time I put an urchin in this tank. Oh my god, an urchin, what a difference. And I'm sure quite a few of you watching this video, I've always kept urchins. It's the first time I've had an urchin in this tank, and it made such a big difference after the Coral RX, because as I say, 20% of the algae was still left, and it just goes around cleaning. It's really maintained the tank really, really well. And also, I've added some hermit crabs as well. Not used those before, but I used 2 or 3 hermit crabs, and that's been really, really good. Just watching them, it's a different bit of life in the tank. The fourth one is don't make big changes to the tank. So when I used the Reef RX, what that did was that killed off the majority of the green hair algae, but what the green hair algae was doing was feeding off a phosphate and feeding off a nitrate. So my nitrate and my phosphate spiked, and as a result, the coral sulked for probably about a month or so. I had 7 anemones and I've lost 2 of those, and one of them is still sulking, and that's because I made a big change to the tank. So what I would have done is I would have used the Reef RX, but I probably would have tested my nitrates and my phosphates on a daily basis, and as I seen them going up, I then would have done the water changes, small water changes, to keep those nitrates and phosphates in bay. But they went up. Nitrates were at about 5, phosphates were about 0.05, and the nitrates ended up going to above 30, and the phosphates went to above 0.14. And those levels are okay, it's just how quickly they went up, and that had an impact. And then last but not least, I think in a nano you need to be certainly a lot more on your regular maintenance to keep things in check, as things develop a lot quicker. So 10% water change per week, cleaning the glass cleaning the sand. I manually removed the green hair algae and the bubble algae, and when I started doing that, that had a positive impact on the tank, and the corals looked a lot better. You can be a little more lax on a larger tank, and things don't go south as quickly as they do in a small tank. So that's it. There's my top 5 of what I would do differently for this tank in a nano tank. And I'm doing all of those now, the ones I can do in terms of the cleanup crew, the regular maintenance, adding bacteria. Obviously I can't do anything about the live sand now, and also I'm making sure when I do my water changes, I make sure the salinity and the temperature is on point, both in terms of the water that's in the bucket that I'm changing, but also when it goes into the tank, so that I can adjust it accordingly at the time. So it just needs a bit more, I suppose, diligence at what you do. Compared to a bigger tank, I definitely wasn't as careful in the bigger tank as I am with this. If you like this video, then please press the like. It'd be great if you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and put any comments, any questions, anything that you don't agree with this video, then put it below. And thanks for watching.